Most people spend their lives thinking their mind is helping them. But what if it's actually in the way? We live in a time when your mind is constantly working, checking notifications, replaying conversations, planning tomorrow, worrying about next week. It's easy to believe that the more we think, the more control we have over life. But Helena Blavatsky, a 19th century Russian philosopher and mystic, said something radical. The mind is the problem, not the solution. And she wasn't speaking in riddles. She meant this literally. Blavatsky's work, The Voice of the Silence, is not a religious text, and it's not a self-help book. It's a direct guide for people who want something deeper than temporary peace or success. According to her, ancient teachings from hidden Tibetan schools describe the mind as the great slayer of the real. In other words, it creates so much noise, desire, fear, identity, judgment, that we can't hear or see what's actually true. To her, the real path to clarity begins with silencing the internal chatter. To discover what's real, you first have to stop identifying with every thought that runs through your head. Sounds abstract? Think of it this way. Imagine you're trying to listen to a soft, distant sound, but you're standing next to a speaker blasting loud music. That's your mind. The soft sound is what Blavatsky calls nada, not an actual noise, but a kind of inner stillness that arises when your thoughts quiet down. This is the first step in a deeper kind of awareness that she, and many ancient traditions, consider the foundation of real wisdom. But there's more. Once you find this silence, you face a choice. Do you use it to free just yourself, or do you help others too? The Voice of the Silence outlines two paths. One is personal liberation. The other, harder path is that of the bodhisattva, someone who puts off their own spiritual exit to stay and help others grow. In Blavatsky's view, that's the highest calling. Not just awakening for your own sake, but for everyone's. And it doesn't require renouncing your life or joining a monastery. It starts with everyday practices like mindfulness, choosing not to react in anger, or listening without judgment. Meditation is central, not as a trendy escape, but as a discipline to calm the mental noise and return to awareness. She even outlines simple methods. Focus on your breath, return to it when distracted, and gradually tune into that deeper inner silence. Blavatsky's ideas might seem strange at first, especially the part about hearing a soundless sound, but they point to something surprisingly practical: the ability to be fully present, less reactive, and more connected to others. Her message cuts through both religious dogma and modern chaos to ask a simple question: are you willing to quiet the noise and see what's real underneath? It's not a mystical riddle. It's a challenge and an invitation to live with greater clarity, depth, and compassion. If the first step is silencing the mind, the second is seeing through the illusion of being separate. This is where the Voice of the Silence gets personal. Blavatsky says that one of the biggest mistakes we make is believing we exist as isolated individuals. We think we're separate from other people, from nature, from the world around us. This false belief, she says, is the root of suffering. In simple terms, it's what keeps us anxious, defensive, and always chasing something else. She wasn't alone in saying this. Ancient Indian and Tibetan traditions describe this illusion as maya, a kind of mental fog that makes us believe our name, job, appearance, or emotions define who we are. And because we identify so strongly with these things, we fear losing them. This leads to attachment, comparison, and a constant sense of dissatisfaction. Blavatsky's point is clear. You can't find peace by rearranging your outer life if you're still trapped in inner illusion. Think about how this plays out every day. You get a compliment and feel good. Someone criticizes you, and it ruins your mood. You finally get the thing you wanted, a promotion, a new gadget, a relationship, and soon after you're already wanting something else. This endless loop isn't just exhausting. It's exactly what she warned against. What you really are isn't touched by praise, blame, gain, or loss. The deeper self, what Blavatsky calls the higher self, is always there, silent and steady. But to access it, you have to stop believing every impulse, emotion, and thought is you. This isn't about detaching from life. It's about not getting lost in it. Blavatsky doesn't say this journey is easy. In fact, she outlines 7 portals, practical inner challenges you must go through. These include patience, charity, energy, and wisdom. Each one is like a checkpoint, not to prove something to others, but to chip away at the layers of illusion. She says that only when you pass through all of them do you gain real insight, not just about the world, but about yourself. Real change happens when you stop reacting and start observing, when you pause before acting on every impulse, when you choose to listen instead of defend, When you stop being pulled by the outside world and start living from inner clarity. These teachings, though old, meet our present moment with surprising precision. In an age of constant noise and quick fixes, the voice of the silence doesn't offer shortcuts. It offers direction. The question it keeps asking is the same. Are you ready to look past the surface and begin the real work of transformation? Understanding wisdom isn't enough. Living it is what changes you. By now, it's clear that the voice of the silence isn't a book you read once. It's a guide you come back to, especially when life feels confusing, overwhelming, or directionless. Awakening isn't about collecting spiritual ideas. It's about putting them into action. And that action begins in the ordinary moments of everyday life. You don't need to retreat to a mountain or abandon your responsibilities to walk this path. You just need to change how you show up in the present. When you're waiting in traffic, when someone irritates you, when you feel stressed or impatient, that's the real test. Those are the moments where the spiritual path is lived. Take the idea of detachment, for example. People often mistake it for indifference, like not caring what happens. But that's not what Blavatsky meant. She pointed to something more subtle and powerful. Caring deeply, but not clinging. You do your best, but you stop tying your happiness to outcomes you can't control. Think of a doctor who helps a patient with compassion, but knows she can't control the final result. Or a parent who guides their child lovingly, without trying to shape every part of their future. That's detachment in real life. It's engaged, grounded, and free of control. Another key insight from the voice of the silence is that clarity doesn't come from more effort. It comes from inner stillness. In modern life, we often think that if we just try harder, think faster, or stay busier, we'll figure things out. But Blavatsky flips that idea. She says that real understanding appears when the mind becomes quiet. This is where meditation enters, not as an escape, but as a tool. Just like lifting weights builds physical strength, meditation builds inner strength, the ability to stay centered when life gets difficult. You learn to observe your thoughts, rather than get pulled into every reaction. That's what Blavatsky meant by slaying the slayer, overcoming the mind that constantly drags you into anxiety, comparison, and judgment. When you can sit in silence and simply observe your thoughts, you begin to see that they aren't you. That separation creates space. In that space, peace and insight can finally grow. The final goal isn't just personal peace. It's compassion. Blavatsky draws a hard line between two types of seekers. Those who want to escape the world and those who want to help heal it. The second group, the bodhisattvas, choose to stay. Even when they could graduate spiritually, they turn back and help others who are still struggling. That's not just selflessness. It's the highest form of wisdom. In a world that tells us to put ourselves first, that's a radical idea. But it's also deeply practical. When you stop seeing other people as separate, when you realize that their well-being is tied to your own, you naturally become more patient, more kind, and more grounded. That's the shift Blavatsky wants us to make. It's not about perfection. It's about direction. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you choose compassion over control, every time you listen instead of speak, you're walking the path she wrote about, not in theory, but in life. Real progress on the spiritual path doesn't look dramatic. It looks consistent. By now, Blavatsky's message is clear. The journey to inner clarity and compassion doesn't come from believing more. It comes from doing more of the right things every day. And in the voice of the silence, she gives us a structure for that progress, the 7 portals. These are not abstract ideals. They're real-world qualities that shape how you live, relate, and grow. Let's break them down and see what they actually look like in everyday life. Charity. This isn't just giving money. It's generosity of spirit. Holding the door open, giving someone your full attention, choosing not to interrupt. In short, offering what you have, without expecting something back. Practice daily. It trains the heart to expand beyond self-interest. Morality. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent, acting with integrity, even when no one's watching. It means telling the truth, keeping your word, and not cutting corners just because you can. It's how you build trust with others and with yourself. Patience. It's not passive endurance. It's strength under pressure, like staying calm when a situation spirals, or giving people the space to be imperfect. The real challenge isn't waiting. It's waiting without resentment. That's the patience Blavatsky is pointing to. Detachment. This is where you stop tying your mood to outcomes. Didn't get the job, didn't get the reply you wanted? Instead of spiraling, you let go, not by giving up, but by releasing the need to control. Detachment is clarity in action. Energy. Spiritual work takes effort. It's easy to drift into passivity, thinking insight will come on its own. But Blavatsky says awakening requires virya, courage, focus, and steady energy. This is getting up to meditate when you don't feel like it, choosing kindness when you're tired, and showing up when it's inconvenient. Meditation. This is the tool that ties it all together. Without meditation, the mind stays reactive. Dhyana is deep focus, not daydreaming. It helps you quiet the noise, observe your thoughts, and stay present. Even 5 minutes a day can shift how you handle the rest of your life. Wisdom. Wisdom isn't just knowing facts. It's seeing clearly what matters and what doesn't. It's understanding that emotions come and go, but awareness is constant. It's choosing compassion over ego, silence over noise, presence over distraction. That's the final portal, and it's built from everything that came before. These virtues aren't gates you pass through once. They're skills you keep practicing. You won't master them overnight. That's not the point. The point is direction over perfection. Every small decision, what you say, how you respond, where you put your focus, is either helping you grow or keeping you stuck. Blavatsky doesn't give us fantasy. She gives us work, but it's the kind of work that leads somewhere real. Start where you are. Pick one portal and apply it this week. Notice the resistance that shows up. Stay with it. These are not checkboxes. They are reflections of who you are becoming. Because in the end, the voice of the silence isn't about escaping the world. It's about engaging with it more wisely, more fully, and more compassionately. Knowing the path is one thing. Walking it during everyday stress is where it actually matters. It's easy to feel centered when things are going well, when no one's pushing your buttons, when life is calm, when you've just meditated. But Blavatsky's teachings from the voice of the silence were never meant for quiet moments alone. They're meant for real life, the mess, the pressure, the emotions. Let's take 3 common situations and look at how her insights apply in simple, practical ways. First, when you're emotionally triggered, someone says something that hits a nerve. Maybe you feel disrespected, ignored, or misunderstood. The normal response? React, defend, attack, withdraw, replay it for hours. Blavatsky's advice? Pause, observe, don't identify. She reminds us that the mind loves to create stories. But when you pause and ask, is this my higher self responding or my ego reacting? You create space. That space is everything. You can still address the situation, but from clarity, not reactivity. Before responding, take one deep breath. Literally one. Let your body slow down before your mind speeds up. That second could be the difference between peace and regret. Second, when you're overwhelmed at work or home, the pace of modern life doesn't leave much room for reflection. We jump from task to task, never feeling finished. Blavatsky would say this is exactly how illusion traps us, believing that doing more will make us feel complete. Stillness creates clarity. Even when your to-do list is long, 5 minutes of stillness can reset your mind better than another rushed email. When you step back, you remember what matters and what doesn't. Before your day starts, sit quietly for 3 minutes. No phone. Just breathe. You'll get more done by starting from calm than by diving into chaos. Third, in relationships with conflict or tension, we all want to be understood, but we often listen to respond, not to understand. That's where conflict builds. Blavatsky's teachings remind us that compassion and non-attachment must go together. You stay present, but you stop clinging to needing to be right or validated. In a difficult conversation, don't aim to win. Aim to understand. Even if you don't agree, you can stay calm. That's real strength. You don't need to fix every problem. You need to stop making them worse. That begins with inner work, quieting the mind, observing your reactions, choosing to respond with patience and wisdom. These are not spiritual cliches. They're tools that work when applied. And you don't need to get them perfect. You just need to keep practicing. Every time you choose stillness over speed, compassion over ego, silence over reaction, you're walking the path. Blavatsky didn't promise ease. She promised clarity. And in today's noisy world, that might be the most valuable thing we can find. The path is not straight, and feeling stuck is part of walking it. If you've ever wondered, why am I still struggling with the same issues even after all this inner work? You're not alone. Blavatsky never claimed that awakening would be fast or smooth. In fact, the voice of the silence makes it clear. Spiritual growth means repeatedly facing the same inner obstacles until they no longer control you. That's not failure. That's the work. Progress doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like discomfort, fatigue, or even doubt. You start meditating but feel restless. You try to stay patient but still snap under pressure. You aim for detachment, but emotions pull you right back in. Blavatsky would say, that's exactly when you're on the edge of something important. Here's how to reframe and move through common setbacks. First, you feel like you're not changing fast enough. We're wired to expect fast results. But Blavatsky's teachings point to transformation, not quick improvement. And transformation is gradual. It's like strengthening a muscle. You don't see change on day one, but each repetition counts. Every time you return to awareness, even after slipping, you're training the mind to wake up faster next time. Don't measure your progress by perfection. Measure it by recovery time. Second, old habits and thoughts keep coming back. Many seekers think they've failed if they fall back into anger, anxiety, or attachment. But Blavatsky would remind you, you're not trying to erase these patterns. You're learning not to be ruled by them. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. You can't stop the reflection from appearing, but you can stop reacting to it. The thought comes. The feeling arises, but you observe it, breathe, and let it pass. That's growth. Third, you feel disconnected or uninspired. There will be days when meditation feels dull, when spiritual texts seem distant, when none of it feels real. This is normal. It's the mind resisting stillness. Blavatsky called it the slayer of the real for a reason. What to do? Don't chase a spiritual high. Just show up. Sit anyway. Read anyway. Be still anyway. Like brushing your teeth, the benefit builds even when you don't notice it. Fourth, you compare your progress to others. Whether it's someone who seems more spiritual or more at peace, comparison is another trap of the lower mind. Blavatsky's path is individual, tailored to your life, your struggles, your karmic lessons. You're not behind. You're not off track. You're in the exact part of your journey that you need to be. The only useful comparison is this. Are you more aware than you were a year ago? So what keeps you going when things feel slow or unclear? Blavatsky would say, intention and repetition, not force, not guilt, just coming back, again and again, choosing clarity, choosing kindness, choosing presence, even when you don't feel like it. Especially then, there's no deadline. There's no too late. There's only this moment and what you choose to do with it. So keep showing up. Keep listening to the silence beneath the noise. Keep walking the path, even if it's with slow, imperfect steps. They still count. At some point, the path stops being just about you. That's when it becomes real. Meditation, self-awareness, and inner stillness are the foundation, but they're not the finish line. Blavatsky's message in The Voice of the Silence points beyond personal development. Her clearest teaching is this. The highest path is not just about waking up. It's about showing up for others. And that's not a distant ideal. It's a practical shift. It's how you treat your family when they're difficult. It's how you lead a team at work without feeding your ego. It's how you listen to a friend without making it about you. This is what the Bodhisattva path looks like in modern life. Choosing compassion, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Choosing patience, even when you're tired. Choosing service, not because you're above others, but because you know you're not separate from them. Here are a few ways to apply this in real-world situations. First, in family life. Families bring up deep emotions, love, loyalty, frustration, and often unresolved tension. These are not distractions from the path. They are the path. Every interaction is an opportunity to practice one of the 7 portals: patience, detachment, generosity, or compassion. You don't need to fix people. Just meet them with steadiness. Respond with clarity. That's enough to change the tone of a whole household. Second, in work or leadership, Blavatsky warned against the ego, not just in spiritual circles, but in daily life. Leadership, especially, can become a trap for status and control. But what if leadership meant service instead of superiority? Led from presence. Listen before talking. Build trust instead of chasing credit. Real power comes from calm authority, not domination. Third, in social or global challenges, the world today is noisy, divided, and often painful to witness. It's tempting to withdraw, but Blavatsky reminds us that the awakened one does not retreat. They engage wisely. The goal is not to fight everything, but to bring light into confusion. You don't need a platform to do this. You just need presence. Someone who's calm in chaos affects everyone around them. Spiritual work is not separate from daily life. The more you integrate these teachings into your relationships, decisions, and small actions, the more natural they become. You don't need to explain your path to anyone. You just need to live it. Be a still point in the conversation. Be a pause in the argument. Be the one who listens when no one else will. That's the Bodhisattva in action. That's Blavatsky's true vision. A world transformed not by force, but by people who have transformed themselves and are now willing to help others do the same. This is not an ancient teaching to be admired. It's a living path to be walked. Starting now, where you are, with what you already have. The silence is waiting.